On today's video, we dive deep into one of the greatest solos in Skid Row history, plus spend some time with Scotti Hill himself talking about how he wrote this amazing solo. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. 18 in Life is one of Skid Row's biggest hits, and I was recently asked by my buddy Mike over on The Art of Guitar to contribute a cover of its awesome solo for his Top 50 Solos of the 80s video series that he's working on. This solo is played by the amazing Scotti Hill, and it has a very important place in my heart that you guys are going to learn about over the course of this video. I'm going to try to keep things brief here because this is going to be a mega long video, because I'm going to show you guys how to play the solo note for note, and then I get to sit down with Scotti himself over a Zoom call and we chat for about 20 minutes about his entire solo writing process, what he was thinking about while he was writing this amazing solo, and all kinds of other stuff that you don't want to miss out on. As always, this video is brought to you guys by everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Sign up today, even for just $1 a month. You're gonna get access to all kinds of downloadable tabs, bonus lessons, backing tracks, and so much more. This week, everybody who supports my channel, even for just $1 a month, also gets a bonus video to go along with this one, showing you guys how I learned and transcribed the solo for my cover. So don't delay, sign up today. Thanks. Gear-wise for the lesson here, I'm playing my Ibanez RG3120 with Suhr Aldrich pickups in it into the Fractal Audio Axe FX 3. For the actual cover that I did though, I was playing my Suhr Modern Satin, also into the Axe FX 3. Now let's hear that glorious solo again at stepdad speed. Just a really great melodic solo that follows those chord changes extremely nicely. This is also a really great solo to learn if you're not like an alternate picking monster, because all the fast runs in this, as Scotti talks about later on in the interview section of this video, are mostly all hammer-ons and pull-offs and stuff. So you don't have to be like Al Di Meola Jr. to play this thing. Let's dig right in here and talk about the first licks, which happen down here in the 4th position. So again, a really limited selection of notes being thrown around right there, but they're always important ones for the chords that are being played behind it. Be sure to really get some good attitude and aggression on those rakes and that vibrato. If you play this solo with vibrato that sounds like this, that's not gonna cut it. Scotty's got a really nice aggressive vibrato sound, so be sure to listen to the original really closely and try to copy that as much as you can. That's the good stuff, kids. I love that little pinch harmonic in that phrase. Just a cool little detail that makes it so much more awesome. After that, we're going to jump up here to the 9th position to play some licks that fall nicely into the C sharp minor scale. Here's how it starts off. So notice that was a bend. Pick it again and let it down before you go back down to the 9 there on the B string. Roll that first finger up onto the G string right here to play this phrase. So again, you'll notice I played the 9, the 11, and gave that a whole step bend. Be sure to do this bend either with your 2nd or 3rd finger. We're going to be using our little finger here in just a second to add on a note in front of it. Here's what you're going to do. So you got that 9, right? You got the 11, you're going to bend it up. While you're holding it up with that whole step bend, your little finger's not doing anything right now, right? Fret the 12, and then take it back off and pick that held 11 again. and let the bend down. I love that sound. Then you gotta play this. There's a really quick pull off right here on the G before you play this little B major dyad, which you give some nice vibrato to. So far the 9th position stuff is gonna sound like this. That's the next lick in here. It kind of comes in on the upbeat of the previous measure. So you can hear the pinch harmonic on there. We're gonna let it down, walk up the scale, and then when we reach the B string, we're gonna play this. Then we have this lick that walks down the scale. We're gonna start off with this little rake. Kind of feels like a, what would that be, an F sharp minor arpeggio? These two notes don't really have a lot of definition to them. So you can just kind of like rake the pick through those and really focus on landing on the C sharp note. So we do the rake, walk down the scale, walk down the scale on the G string here. Notice when we reached that D sharp note, it was like a half step bend, then another pick stroke at neutral, like that. After this, we're going to jump up the neck here to the 14th position for this cool minor pentatonic phrase. Again, not a lot of picking going on right here. Hammer, pick, pick, slide, pick, pick. Not too terribly hard to play, just using the 1st and 3rd fingers right there. Okay, now this phrase right here, again, has a big old rake in front of it. Pull off, and another pick stroke. Then you're gonna play this high B note after that. Now this is where the big descending lick at the end of the solo starts. And this lick is really hard to get down and nail super accurately. This is probably the one that I spent the most time practicing because it just kind of like falls all over the beat. It's one of those licks that just kind of tumbles through the rhythm rather than being super like taka 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 ta, like really machine gun like. This is more like that Eddie Van Halen, I call it speed of nervous system effect, where you kind of have this pattern of notes you're going to be using, and it's not really in time or anything like that. It's just a flurry of notes that goes by at the speed of the player's nervous system, hence why I call it that. It's a really unusual phrase. Let's look at it a few times here, and I recommend slowing down the audio on YouTube on the original song so you can really practice along with it and practice that timing on how these go. As I play through this a few times right here, notice how little the pick is doing. There's not a lot of picking in this. Let the left hand do the majority of the work for you. Okay, so we just come off of this B note, right? Come down a scale, then do those 2 notes again. So the last 2 notes in the pattern get played twice. After that, we're going to go to the next string, change our mind, and go back to the previous note we played on the high E string. So you have it going down twice, change my mind, I go back, okay? And again, notice the pick right there is only activating each string. The minimal amount of picking you can do. After this, what we're going to do is to go back down and play through those same 3 notes of that pattern on the B string. Okay, so now we have... Now at this point what we're going to do is to go to the G string right here on fret number 18, and then change our mind and decide to go back to the B string again. Okay, here's what you're going to do though. Okay? So you're going back 2 notes on the B string right there. I do that by connecting a downstroke to another downstroke, like that. But there's no reason you couldn't down up that if you wanted to. And then play down 2 notes here on the G string before you cap it off with a whole step bend here on the high E string, fret number 19, up to C sharp, the root of the scale. Again, it's a very arrhythmic phrase. Don't really be thinking about playing this as 16th notes or triplets or whatever. Honestly, if you just kind of rip through those notes about as fast as you can, it'll probably end up right. Because the cool thing is this last bend that he plays doesn't really land on a downbeat either. So even if like you're faster than the record and you end up there a little bit before him, that's fine. If you're a little slower than he is on the record and you end up here, that's fine. Maybe this time that bend will be like on beat. It'll sound cool either way. So again, just go about as fast as you can. Learn the phrase really accurately. Get comfy with it, and then just try to start speeding it up and plowing through it as fast as you can. And that's the entire solo. It's not too bad. Okay, so we start off down here in the 4th position. Up to the 9th position here for our minor scale stuff. Our walk up and walk down lick. Little sweep. Jumping up here to play the slidey minor pentatonic lick. Okay, so now that you know how to play it, let's learn the story behind this iconic solo by sitting down and having ourselves a little Zoom chat with Scotti Hill himself. It really means a ton to me that Scotti took the time to sit down and do this. I hope you guys enjoy our conversation. It's just over Zoom on a little Mac laptop, so the audio isn't like crazy great or anything, but hey, you get what you pay for, and if you have a problem with that, send in your receipt and I'll offer you a refund. Scotti's got all kinds of awesome wisdom in here about not overplaying and serving the song, and how you don't even necessarily like need to know theory in order to write great melodic iconic solos. There's so much cool stuff that he talks about in here. I'm sure there's something for everybody to take away from this conversation. So without further ado, let's roll it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the amazing, the lovely, the legendary Mr. Scotti Hill of Skid Row. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. I'm glad to see you got the intro I sent you.
Yeah, I was reading lines. I got a cue card just off screen right now. I got all your credentials right, man. Thank you so much for being here to talk about this legendary solo, man.
Oh, thanks, dude. Thanks, man. I get a lot of people playing this solo, and they send me their links on Instagram and sometimes on YouTube, and it's so cool to hear somebody playing something you did over 30 years ago. And they weren't even born, and they're like, "Hey, check it out! I learned that thing." I was like, "Wow, that's so cool!" If I knew that when I was playing it, it would have been pretty mind blowing.
Well, while I've got you, I definitely want to pick your mind about some of the stuff you were thinking about, your approach whenever you're writing solos. But first thing I want to do is absolutely butter you up a little bit more here and tell you more about why this is so awesome for me. I mean, it's really cool that everybody else gets to watch this conversation, but for me, I'm like the happiest dude in the room right now. So if I was to like rewind to when I started playing guitar, when I was about like 16 or so, I had this buddy, Eric, who was the first guy that I knew who was like really hardcore into guitar. And he was also the first person I knew that had a home studio. Because you got to think, this is like late 90s. Like that wasn't common, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the first times I ever went into the studio is whenever Eric called me and was just like, "Hey, I'm doing a cover of 18 in Life. I'm singing on it and playing rhythm guitar. My brother's playing drums on it. I want to get you in here to play the solo on it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I've never learned that solo, but you know," he's like, "That's fine, man. Just hit the main licks and kind of improvise the rest and put your own flair on it. It's cool." So one of the first times I really actually went into a studio and saw the red light come on and record my guitar and learn about like punch ins and stuff like that, it was me recording 18 in Life.
That's awesome, dude. Awesome. That's awesome. It was one of the first times I went in the studio too.
How old were you whenever you guys tracked this?
No, I had been in the studio plenty of times before that. I think I was like 23 or 24 when I tracked that. Pretty young.
Well, and let me ask you about this too. Whenever you guys were writing and recording this song, which obviously, you know, turned out to be a mega huge smash for you guys, was it one of those ones that you had a hunch where you're like, "I think this is going to be the one," or was it just like, "This is track 4 on the album, whatever"?
I didn't think any of it was going to do anything. I was just happy to be there and hanging with my buds, and because the idea of that size success was something bigger than my brain could conceptualize.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to play good guitar. That was my focus. And when people were like, "Oh man, you're gonna have a hit song" and all that, I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, of course you hope, and that's what you're trying for, but didn't really think that. I thought it was a good song, but
yeah,
could not wrap my head around it being a radio hit.
Dang, man. Yeah. So whenever you were writing that solo, what were the things you had in mind? I kind of want to get into your process here, because I know there's a lot of guys out there that are all like, okay, it's following this chord progression. I need to land on these chord tones at this exact time. Are you that guy? Are you really theoried out and scoped in when you're doing that? Or are you just like, I'm gonna just sing something and hum something until it sounds cool?
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. People have like, I've gotten emails or messages from people saying that, oh, you're doing this and it's theoretically correct. And I understand that you're not a theory guy, and I'm not a theory guy. There used to be a music stand sitting back there, and I bought some books and all that, and still I just can't. It's just faster for me to just do it, So so the solo, it was I call it a whistler. For a song like that, I want to play a solo that you can whistle.
Yeah.
So I want to create a song within the song.
Yeah, that's
another theme, because otherwise it's for the guitar player and the other guitar players, and that's it. But it's got to be for everybody, especially in a song like that. Some songs you just burn over and everybody's like, yeah, shredding, which is awesome. But I'm not the best shredder, so I have to do something else, right? So we'll play something memorable and something kind of soulful. Jeff Beck is my guy. That's where I'm coming from. Yeah. So
just to kind of get that idea that you're a shoot first and ask questions later kind of player, like I've worked with so many students over the years that are like, okay, I really want to get into writing songs and writing solos, but I don't know any theories. They come to me and they're like, I got to learn all this music theory so I can write songs. And I'm like, you really don't. Like, I love music theory. I'm all about that stuff. To me, it's better for me because I'm lazy and I'd rather not hunt and peck and look for stuff. Like, I'd rather know, So the lazy side of me enjoys that. But then at the end of the day, even whenever I'm writing solos and stuff too, it's actually like the third thing in line that I'm thinking about. I would rather just find, as you said, the whistlers, man, find the melody first. And then maybe after that, you can sit back and look at it theory-wise and be like, okay, this is cool because when you started the solo, you landed on the root note of that C sharp or whatever. You can figure that out later.
Right.
At the end of the day, if it starts here and it sounds cool here, that's all you need to know, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. And even watching you play that, I'm just playing the shape of that C sharp minor, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but that's something I wouldn't have even thought of. I wouldn't even thought of that at the time. I would just heard and it's something that developed in rehearsal. Like the same thing with I Remember You. I kind of went in a direction and just took it a little further. And then next thing I know, I had a solo. It's like, oh, okay, that works. And I'll play like that.
So let me ask you this: on the takes that we hear on the record, how much of this was like note by note meticulously planned out and rehearsed, and how much of it was just kind of like, especially maybe that outro licks, just like, yeah, this seemed like the right thing to do at the time? How much of it is improv?
The outro is Snake. Snake plays the outro. Bow, down, down.
I meant the little ending lick.
Oh, that, yeah, the end of the solo. Well, that's the only part that wasn't written for the. So the part that was originally written, it was like kind of melodic all the way through. It went.
Ooh.
right?
Wow, that's got, you know, that's got over the mountain kind of.
Yeah. Yep. That's probably where I got that shape from.
Oh.
I'm sure that's where I got that shape from, because I love that over the mountain solo, and I probably use that shape a lot. So we got sweep. But
cool.
when I liked it. I liked it. Michael Wagner, our producer, was like, he's like this big German guy. He goes, play something fast at the end. I was like, really? All right. So that the ending part, I probably said me. That ending part is wasn't my first choice, the speedy thing, and I don't even think I play it the same every time. You know, I just kind of play something flurry there and be done with it. But originally that slower piece.
Gotcha, man. Yeah,
and it was all
like, you know, the map of notes you're going to use, and you know it's going to end here, and what happens in the middle, whatever happens, right?
Yeah. So that solo, it was by the time I got to the studio, it was written out note for note. But I don't think it was something that it was a long time ago, so I don't exactly remember, but I don't think it was something I sat down in a room and did. I'm not like one to sit down in a chair and go, now I'm going to write the solo. It just kind of happens at rehearsal, you know, just develops into something. And maybe I'll sit down and put the pieces together and figure out, oh, something's going wrong here. Let's connect them. So yeah, it's and then any squeals, any pinch harmonics or anything that's in there, you know, for me, like, pinch harmonics are happy accidents.
Yeah.
You know,
never the same twice.
It's like, sometimes I'll play it live and people will comment and they'll be like, "He didn't hit the pinch harmonic." It's like, well, I didn't the first take in the studio either. It was just like, you know.
What's your point, right?
I don't really plan them out. Sometimes, you know how it is with pinch harmonics. Sometimes you're going, and it's like, oh, I'm going to pinch this motherfucker right here, and it just pops out. But if you say, oh, I'm going to do pinch harmonic right now, it's like, pink.
And no.
I'm not Zach Wild, man. I don't get them every time.
Dude, I don't know how that guy does it with such like insane accuracy, like every freaking time, man.
Especially on a low E string, because that's a hard pinch.
For real, man, for real. So like with that closing lick, this is what I was gonna ask you about, because honestly, this is probably the hardest part to transcribe and really nail down, because the timing is really what I call floaty. It's really flowy in the sense that it's not wow, like it's not really rhythmic. It just has that kind of like flurry of notes kind of feel that we hear from players like Eddie Van Halen, obviously, where a lot of his really fast stuff isn't necessarily in time. Like it's not 16th notes or whatever. And another guy that it made me think of, there's actually a few parts in the solo that kind of made me think of him a little bit, is Steve Lukather, who plays a lot of stuff like that too.
Yeah, well, another of my favorites.
Dude, man, the sassiest dude on earth.
Yeah, just singing solos, you know. He was like a vibrato in inspiration for me.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, it's
just phrasing, vibrato, everything is all just out of control.
Everything. It's a total package, you know. Well, you know, you can add to that influence list, add Neil Sean in there.
Oh, dude, yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you listen to Faithfully, we're down. It's like, holy shit, chills, man. You know,
it's just so freaking musical, man. And again, both of those guys have, you know, immense chops on reserve when they need them.
Right.
But I don't feel like either of them hits that point in their soloing ever where they're like, oh yeah, I need to prove to everybody that I can shred. Oh, and just blows.
Right.
Up, you know?
Right. And you know, that's something that's bred into us as guitar players. You know, we got to shred, you know. But I'll tell you what, I realized a long time ago that I'm never going to be able to keep up with the modern guitar players as far as shredding goes.
Mm.
You know, I can tell my story, which is what I do. I just tell my story musically, and I leave the fascinating, just incredible technique to the guys who are good at it. So when you talk about, you know, a flurry of notes, yeah, they're not particularly in time with anything because I can't do that, right? So what we have is land on the note.
Yeah.
Play the flurry, play notes that are in key, and you know, it's a lot of rolls and stuff like that. You know, it's like yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Those are rolls, just.
And it's not like all alternate picked or anything. There's a lot of pull-offs and stuff.
Yeah, it's all pull-offs. It's all pull-offs, you know. You watch my right hand, it's like click, 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 you know.
Dude,
I sit around and I practice alternate picking, but I'm not good at it.
I was gonna say I do the same thing where I go totally down the rabbit hole and try to spend so much time working on alternate picking, which is never really been my strong suit. Like one of my first big influences is like Joe Satriani, who's a legato guy. So I've always gravitated towards that. And there's part of this thing in the back of my head where I'm like, but I need to be able to alternate pick like a maniac. And
well, it sounds so cool. It sounds so cool. Like one of my another early influence, and you can't hear it in my playing, but it's Al Di Meola.
Oh, the monster picker right there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I started listening to him in like the early 80s, the early mid, probably 83, 82 or something like that. And guys were not doing that. Yeah. You know, not many people were doing that. And to his popularity, so he was the guy. And to hear that clean picking and that control, and just like, it's like a scary dragon, you know, it's just like, whoa, man. And it's fierce guitar playing. But back to Al Di Meola, I'm talking about Al Di Meola, but I think one of his strongest skills, and what I really love about his playing, which nobody ever talks about, is his vibrato, which is just spectacular. His vibrato is incredible.
I feel like people do the same thing with Yngwie, where all they ever talk about is sweep picking and all that stuff.
Right.
But dude,
right.
Yngwie's vibrato is the traction right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm a big Yngwie fan too. You know, so I'm just because I don't play like these guys doesn't mean I don't worship them.
Sure. But yeah, dude, I go down the alternate picking rabbit hole all the time, and thinking that I need that, thinking that I need to be able to do, the Al Di Meola thing or the Andy Wood thing. My buddy Andy Wood's an insane alternate picker. But then I think about it and I'm like, let's see, my favorite players, you know, whether I'm looking at stuff like your stuff and like Vito Bratta or Marty Friedman, Satriani, Vai, Eddie Van Halen, none of those guys are monster alternate pickers at all. Like they're good, but they're not inhuman like Di Meola is. Right.
Well, like, you know, like Eddie, there were moments where he would throw that in there, like first record, I'm the One. It's like, wow, that's clean. It's clean, but he used it enough that when he did it, it was like, oh wow, did you hear that? It's not like every solo was doing that. So take these things and use a little bit of them, and then that makes them even more powerful.
I like that. Yeah, it's like if every solo has some monster alternate picked run in it, it's not as amazing as it is if it's just like that one solo on the record that has this bodacious alternate picked run. Like even like the end of the Bark at the Moon solo. Like that's because he doesn't do that all the time.
No. Yep.
Killer stuff, man.
True. Yeah. Alan Holsworth, legato.
Yeah, no picking.
So when my playing was like really developing quickly, I went through this Alan Holsworth period, and I started to get like a good, I guess, legato kind of style going on.
Brad.
And that's when I started doing like those rolls that I demonstrated there. Yeah. So
But I don't know about you, but I find that a lot of times the players that aren't the mega alternate pickers, the guys that are using a combination of some picking and some legato and stuff like what you're doing in your soloing here, I think a lot of times have more of a thumbprint on their playing, a little bit more of a unique sound than the guys that can just alternate pick absolutely anything they want to.
Well, I think, always wanting to like be recognized as a guitar player. We all want to be recognized for what we love to do, right? My goal was to be the kind of guitar player that you recognize when you hear.
Yeah.
Like David Gilmour, like Neil Schon, like Steve Lukather, Eddie Van Halen. I'm not putting myself in that category, but I'm just saying those are guys that you can recognize. Sure. And those guys use a lot of phrasing and they use a lot of melody, but they're also great technicians.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. Well, and too, I think everybody in the music scene at the time that you guys were doing this stuff, so many guitar players were probably obsessed about the ultimate arms race of like who can acquire the most chops and put out.
Oh yeah. Like when we were coming up, when our first few records, look who we had. We had George Lynch, we had Reb Beach, we had Eddie Van Halen, we had Warren DeMartini, we had all these great guitar players. Yngwie. Yeah. And it was, I didn't really look at it as competition because to me those guys were up in the clouds. Like I said, I just wanted to do what I do and maybe have somebody say, oh, that might be Scotti.
Well, damn, man. I mean, it certainly did work. I mean, the reason I'm learning this stuff right now is because this solo is on many lists of like the greatest solos of that era of music. So clearly you did something right and it was very effective and you weren't just tread,
Goal accomplished.
Mission accomplished, right?
Yes.
People have the wonderful ability to access stuff straight from the horse's mouth thanks to YouTube and everything. I think it's really interesting, man, what it must be like to be a young person just picking up the guitar and always having had the internet and access to stuff like this to clue them in and teach them. Like I say to my friends and stuff a lot of times that are like around my age group, like we're kind of in a unique spot because people don't learn guitar like we did anymore. Yeah. Like part of the last generation to learn how to play guitar without the internet. And that's
right.
Weird.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like to look back at people that like the way we did it. Even looking back, it's like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
For me, it was vinyl, just put the needle on the record, try and figure out the lick, pick the needle up, bring it back a little bit, and just keep doing that.
Repeat.
And I don't remember there being tab when I was a kid. I had heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was. And any guitar, it was basically just Guitar Player magazine when I was a kid. And they always had like a sheet music examples at the time. So, and I couldn't read the music. And if I really wanted to, I'd count down the lines that, FACE in the spaces and I would try and match it up. But like I said before, much faster to just do it by ear. And that's how we developed our ears.
Yeah.
Like, it's not somebody there to show us. And there's nothing wrong with going on YouTube and watching a video and learning something, learning a part. But it's good for your ear training to tune your guitar without a tuner and learn how to pick up tunes.
Yep.
But like I mentioned earlier, and like your channel is awesome because you're spreading the gospel, man.
Shit,
appreciate that. You are the preacher. That is the sermon. It's like show these young people how it's done. And guys like me, Snake and I watch your channel, and I've picked up things from your channel before. I'll see something, I'll be like, oh, I want to see what that means. I want to understand how that works musically. That's or a picking technique. I think you did one on economy picking that I was watching, and I practiced until it got too hard, and I was like, I give up.
Throw in the towel. Well, dude, I'm just saying, for one, that's absolutely mind blowing to me. And if I listen to the next Skid Row record and I hear like Weekend Wankshop lick 112 during the solo, I'm gonna be like 10%, dude.
Yeah, it's all over the record.
That's amazing, man. Dude, so rad. And again, so surreal to hear about that. And so awesome to learn about the writing process of these solos, man. I'm always fascinated to learn about this stuff because everybody has their own approach and there is no one correct approach to writing a solo. Sometimes people map things out meticulously. I understand David Gilmour was a really meticulous solo writer, and that the stuff you heard on the records that sounds improvised was not. He's just a really good actor at doing those lines that he learned and wrote. And then there's other players that lay down improvised stuff like Holdsworth, as you mentioned, Jeff Beck. It ends up being 20 times better than anything I could ever write, I've done some improvised solos over the years, and they're my least favorite of the solos that I've played personally, because they're less creative. It also depends on the song. Some, if it's a 1-4-5 or something like that, and it's up tempo, just go. But those are more the fun solos, but they don't enhance the song in the same way that it just depends on the song, what the song calls for. Well, give the song what it needs. I was gonna say, at the end of the day, it's always serve the song, and it's like
I gotta sew myself into the fabric of the song. That's what we do.
I love it, man. Yeah, and that goes back to everything as far as putting chops where it's needed, writing versus improvising. Whatever suits the song, that's the best way to do it at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing we didn't talk about was phrasing.
Yeah.
Like the phrasing is important. And the way I learned phrasing was I was listening to, I don't, it was so long ago, but it might have been Miles Davis. And I was thinking about horn players and how they play, right? And these guys have to breathe, although some of them can play a note infinitely, but they do have to breathe. Yeah. So therefore there will be a pause, So I was probably like 15 or something. I came up with this exercise where I would exhale while I did improv, and then I would stop playing when I took a breath. And I'm like, that's probably how I don't know how it's done, but that's how I figure it will be done. So, maybe that's a cool way to learn phrasing. Maybe that's a little phrasing hack.
That's great. And that's like, that's what we think of as like a beneficial limitation. Like it's a limitation that horn players have to stop playing to breathe, but it's also a benefit because otherwise they might not ever shut the fuck up, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it's also important to be aware of your breathing. People tense up and they're playing and they're really tight and they're
it's not helping anything.
Breathing is short and if you want to play fluid, you got to be relaxed.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So, yeah, I like that approach, man. Yeah, don't play if you're exhaling, inhaling, whatever it is. You got to play with your breathing. I think that's probably a great way for a lot of us players to really quit wanking it so hard during our solos and literally take a breath, right?
Yeah, wanking is fun, but we got to breathe too. Yeah.
Killer, man. Well, dude, thank you again so much for your time. Really appreciate it, man. Again, this means more to me than you know, and I'm sure it means a ton to all the suckamaniacs and weekend wankers watching this.
Well, I hope you can do more of these with some guitar players, because I'd like to hear some stories behind some of my favorite solos.
Challenge accepted. I would love to do that, man.
Yeah. Awesome, dude.
Thanks again so much. And again, I really appreciate you being here.
You got it.
Cheers.
Floyd Rose on Les Paul. Sue me.
So there you go, guys. That's absolutely everything you ever needed to know about how to play the solo from 18 and Life. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a huge thanks goes out to Scotti Hill for taking the time to sit down and chat about this iconic tune with me. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel and ring that bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. Also be sure to check out the Art of Guitars channel right here on YouTube to keep up with that series of the 50 most iconic hair metal solos of all time. I've got a couple of appearances in part 2 and maybe something for the last part as well. We got to talk about it. We'll figure something out. But either way, I'm on there. Lots of other amazing players are on there, and all kinds of sick licks await thee. So be sure to check that thing out. Be sure to grab the tab as well as the transcription video for this solo over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. It's been fun as always, but now it's time for you guys to get away from the computer and start writing some iconic solos of your own. Let's click it. More picking.